First of all, thank everyone for coming to the Spring 2020 Civil Rights Lecture Series here at Central Connecticut State University. Please bear with me, I'm holding this mic here, and I'm trying to juggle a couple things at the same time. I want to welcome all the distinguished guests here, but before I introduce our distinguished speaker, I want to acknowledge a couple of folks who took time off their busy schedule to be here and support diversity, civil rights, Black History Month, and inclusion here at Central Connecticut State University. President Toro, who I saw earlier today, Dr. David DeWalter, and us, Provost Stovey, thanks for coming out. Provost, thanks for helping us out today. Some of my sponsors from People's Bank, and also Dr. Tommy from Day and Pitney. Where's Tommy? Stand up, please. Yeah, thanks for giving us, obviously, the support, both financially. Day and Pitney has been a supporter here for about 10 years, and obviously we thank you for supporting diversity and inclusion here at Central Connecticut State University. Rusty, I saw her earlier, our Chief Diversity and Inclusive Officer. Thank you. Dr. Toro is here. Let's give our president a round of applause. And I say that because she's been a leader here for diversity and inclusion here on this campus, and something that's much needed here. People's United Bank also here. Dr. Joe Farhart, I work for Joe Farhart. Where's Joe? Thank you, the Dean of School of Business. Thank you for coming out and supporting diversity and inclusion. And obviously Steve Kligler, I know I saw him today. Steve, where are you? Steve Kligler, Office of Public Policy. Thank you for supporting diversity and inclusion for the last 15 years here at Central Connecticut State University. Ladies and gentlemen, our distinguished speaker has appeared on several national talk shows talking about the philosophy of Dr. Martin Luther King, Gandhi, and Mother Teresa, and giving back. She's a human rights activist that comes all the way from Indiana. Breanne Zolfo is a native of Crown Point, Indiana, and is a graduate of Purdue University, where she earned a bachelor's and a master's degree in English and psychology. Ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome to the first time to Central Connecticut State University and to the state of Connecticut, civil rights and human rights activist, Ms. Breanne Zolfo.
Thank you. Okay, so hello, can you hear me now? Okay, good. First, I wanted to say thank you to Stephen for all the work that he's done, not only at this university, but also across the country, all the stuff that he's done for civil rights. So thank you to Stephen for that. Life's most persistent and urgent question is, what are you doing for others? This historic call to action by the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King remains as timely as it is timeless. He devoted his life to serving others, urgently and persistently, just as he did to fight for justice and equality for all people. Beyond a celebration of his life, Martin Luther King is also an annual reminder that every day, each of us can play an important role in continuing his work. By students getting involved in the community, serving and giving back, I really can't think of a better way to live out the legacy of Dr. King. Giving back could be something simpler. You could help others in your everyday life, such as listening or offering to help. Giving back on Martin Luther King Day is a good start, but we must be careful not to become complacent from a single day's work. We should take King's lessons with us throughout life and always look to help people. Martin Luther King said to have been heavily influenced by Gandhi's philosophy of nonviolence, believing it was the only logical approach to the problem of race relations in America. Gandhi was a champion for service, civic engagement, and peace, and still today serves as an example to the rest of the world. He believed in peace and love and left a vibrant law practice in South Africa and moved back to India to civil right and peace. Gandhi's vision went far beyond politics to encompass human rights and sustainable development. Gandhi promoted nonviolence, not just as a philosophy and a political strategy, but as a means to achieve justice and change. Have you ever felt alone, alienated, or as if you don't belong? 15 years ago, I felt this way. My name is Breanne Zolfo. I'm 32 years old, and the owner of Cafe Fresco in Crown Point, Indiana, located less than an hour from the city of Chicago. Like many of you, I had struggled with a lack of self-acceptance for many years. I would like to share something with you about my past and hopefully our future. During my 4 years in high school, every day I ate lunch in the school's bathroom, not in the cafeteria with other students. Alone with myself and my fears, I longed to belong to something. And I never found it in the bathroom, where a mirror reflected a different person than you see here today. I was a chubby girl with hand-me-down clothes and continuously bullied for my weight and the way that I dressed. I wanted someone to like me, anyone. I was looking for love, support, acceptance, and appreciation. I remember heading to the bathroom one day, only to be told the boys' bathroom is the other way. I remember staring at my feet, putting one foot in front of the other, and walking away as fast as I could. I spent those years desperately trying to be someone else, someone I thought was worthy of being loved. As time went on, I buried the trauma of rejection and bullying, while anxiety from judgment of others' opinions surfaced, and it began to haunt me. I would worry, ruminate, and overanalyze. It wasn't until I realized the futility of this that I started to reclaim my identity and figure out who I truly was. This anxiety, shame, and guilt brought on by social and emotional trauma has been the experience of so many of our generation. Because of this, we all crave connection. I always wanted to be a part of a community, somewhere I felt I belonged, and was part of something greater than just myself. A community that was more compassionate, less judgmental, more accepting, and more generous. As I grew into myself, overcoming my past adversity, I became an entrepreneur. Through my cafe business, I was able to create a mission I always wished to be a part of, one that fostered a community of people that saw everyone for who they were and for who they could become and for what we could become together. This realization began materializing while working at a battered women's shelter, Haven House, on the crisis hotline as an intake coordinator. It was there that solidified the need for people to feel seen, appreciated, and loved. Every woman who lived there had a story, and it paralleled one that most of us feel. A story that faced uncertain futures and struggles to survive, but they knew that they wanted to be a part of a community that was more compassionate, less judgmental, and more accepting. They all had the same desire of wanting to be loved, supported, accepted, and appreciated. But why was something so basic to humanity being stripped away from them? For these women, it wasn't about changing or improving anything at that moment, but rather just being there for them and letting them know that they are enough. Over that year at the shelter, I listened to countless stories of people who had no voice, but they all had a story. Everyone has a story. Everyone has a story, an experience, or a trauma that has shaped their personality. To hear these stories is a privilege, and the best response is to listen and be capable of understanding. While volunteering at a local English as a second language school in my hometown, it was there that I discovered others like me who needed to feel a part of something. 2 years later, I opened my own ESL school in the hopes that my graduating class would later work at the cafe and help spread my mission to other cities. When I was young, I had always wanted a platform to make a difference like my parents had made. By giving back to the community, I remember my parents would buy food or clothes to help those less fortunate. My dad always made giving a priority. My most memorable story, one that is forever etched in my mind, was when my mother purchased a Christmas tree for a woman who didn't have one. The family was without electricity and water, but wanted to celebrate one last Christmas together before they lost their home. My dad would always say that we are blessed to have what we have, maybe not financially, but we had parents at home, food in our bellies, and clothes on our back. My favorite tradition growing up was when my parents would pay for people's groceries at the grocery store. The pure shock and appreciation from the customers was the driving force behind this act of kindness. Once I opened my business, I wanted to keep this tradition alive. Every month, we go to the grocery store and surprise unsuspecting customers by paying for their groceries. We believe that these small acts of kindness can ripple throughout our community and beyond. This simple act opened my eyes to the many facets of life. Life is about people and experiences, not materials. Materials come and go, but stories remain forever. And everyone has a story. What kind of world do you want to live in? In a world of conflict, I realize that inspiring and encouraging people can literally change the direction of their life and empower not only a person, but an entire community, and then a region, and eventually a nation. As Mother Teresa once said, it's not about how much you do, but about how much love you put into what you do that counts. Our cafe's mission of community love was a spark, and that spark soon spread like wildfire because we wholeheartedly believed in our mission, and we knew how many people were struggling to be a part of something greater than them. And so, community love was born. It started with the belief that we have the power to brighten someone's day, to be that positive in their life, and to essentially change the world, one random act of kindness at a time. Community love began 7 years ago with a small tip jar that sits on the counter at Cafe Fresco. Most people buy their coffee and may leave $1 in the jar, but few pay attention to the description it bears. It reads, "Every week we choose a deserving person to donate the tip jar funds to, realizing that not all are given the same opportunities and may have encountered some misfortunes. Every week we clear out the jar and we find a cause." One woman who benefited from the jar lived at St. Jude House, another local battered women's shelter in the area. With the money from the jar, we were able to buy her food and clothing, as well as help her with a down payment for her car. It was then that I realized we all have the power to lift those who have fallen and to comfort those who are afflicted. Every week at the cafe, we try to lift those who have fallen by donating to them all of our tips from the customers. But none of us could have predicted the impact that these simple gestures would have on our community. The spirit of giving extends far beyond the tip jar and Cafe Fresco. Our most memorable event happened this past December. One of our community members planted a seed and we watered it like a wildflower. We wanted to provide a day for all the 324 less fortunate children in our city. We wanted to give them a chance to celebrate, an opportunity to just be kids. We rented a local ice skating rink, complete with cookie decorating, hot chocolate, toys for every child, a book to take home, enough food for their families for Christmas break, new shoes, grocery gift cards, and of course, Santa Claus. We met with the mayor and local council to pitch our idea. Not only were we able to get the park donated, but these children were given a Christmas to remember. We rallied the troops and the community jumped in full force. Because of this event, we were able to start a partnership with the local schools to implement different programs in our elementary, middle school, and high schools to promote community love. The latest campaign that evolved out of these meetings was our Community Love Hygiene Closets. These provide a subtle solution to the need in the schools to have an area where students could come and pick up deodorant and other toiletries that they can't afford. This initiative in the schools has provided many low-income families with the necessities that they deserve. We should take these simple lessons with us throughout our life. It's as simple as taking a minute out of your day to encourage someone, buying coffee for a stranger, holding the door open, or simply asking someone about their day. One small act of kindness can make all the difference to someone. Too often we believe that we are unable to make an impact, but making a difference takes time. If you let kindness be the seed, you'll be amazed at what will grow. When you focus on the act of giving, it creates a ripple effect and you'll make a difference in ways you never imagined. It doesn't mean some grandiose gesture. Just do good every day. You may be the only one that noticed the person or made them feel loved. Hold on. You never know the value of the person you didn't notice. I've seen the power of small acts of kindness, forgiveness, and acceptance many times in my own life. This is what helps us feel seen, appreciated, and loved. We care about the struggles of others, and we feel good when that struggle is eliminated. Whether it's something we do ourselves or we witness it in real life, it makes us feel good. When we help someone who is struggling, we're making a difference in their world. It gives us meaning and purpose. Our purpose on this earth is as simple as to spread love and kindness. Whether or not we realize it, everyone wins when we're all kind to one another. Never underestimate the power of kindness. As Gandhi suggested, be the change that you wish to see in the world. And through community love, we became the change that we had wished to see. We began writing inspirational quotes on all of our coffee sleeves 7 years ago because we realized how many people go throughout their day without any inspiration or human interaction. And we wanted to be that little bit of inspiration for their day. We launched our Pay It Forward movement 4 years ago by adding messages inside our coffee cup sleeves as a way to encourage customers to spread their community love. Some examples include pay for someone's coffee, donate items to a homeless shelter. By creating a community of ambassadors, we are able to spread our mission farther. Our most memorable recipient was Joe. 6 years ago, we met a homeless man who had struggled with addiction for years. After many years of sobriety, he still had many obstacles to conquer. One being his transportation to and from work. Joe's simple request was a bicycle. We purchased the bicycle for him, and from there he was able to get a part-time job at the local gas station, eventually leading to a full-time position, and later became a store manager. This man walked back into the cafe 6 years later to let us know how his life has evolved since then. Joe has just finished his apprenticeship as an electrician. He got married and bought a house. We have been able to provide necessities not only to people in need, but also to organizations in need as well. We keep an ear out for people who need help, whether it's a family without food or a child without diapers. We have paid someone's rent, provided clothing for foster children, as well as countless other opportunities to become the change that we wanted to see in the world. By serving our community and giving back to it, we are able to embody and hopefully personify the legacy of Dr. King. He taught us not to become complacent from a single day's work, but to focus on a lifetime of work, beginning today, always beginning today. Our cafe has just celebrated its 6th anniversary, and 2019 was our best year yet. These 7 years haven't been easy. They've consisted of many, many sleepless nights. But over these years, I've gained confidence as a business owner, and my vision for community love became clearer. I added elements to the cafe that allowed me to do what I'm really passionate about, helping others and brightening their day. I had a conversation recently with a friend who asked me to name one thing that this country needs right now. We need kindness. We need to help others when there's nothing in it for us. We need to pay it forward because we believe, seemingly against all indications of the contrary, that maybe they too will pay it forward. I have never been more proud to be a part of community love. I have never been more proud to call these members family, our Fresco family. Our country is so divided right now because of things like political parties, race, gender. You know what's not going to change the world? Sweeping generalizations about people you've never met. You know what is going to change the world? Bettering one person's day and letting the ripple take care of the rest. Our mission has since been highlighted on CBS This Morning, Steve Harvey, and WGN Radio, among other outlets of opportunity. The recognition was unexpected for me because this is how I was raised and taught to live my life. I don't feel like I could take credit for it. This is where I'm supposed to be. It wasn't my dream growing up, but I'm right where I need to be. Thank you for allowing me to share my story.
Good job. You know, we often forget that Dr. King, we talk about Black History Month and giving back. Dr. King was marching the night he was killed in Memphis, Tennessee, marching with garbage workers. Now, Dr. King could have been anywhere in this country, but he chose to represent, garbage workers. So giving back to the community is always something we kind of forget, and when it comes to civil rights and Black History Month, we seem to be, I think, oblivious to that thought. So the first question I wanted to pose to Breanne is obviously, what happened? Why did we lose this concept of giving back? It seems to be something so alien. What happened with that whole concept? Where did we lose it?
I think it's a basic concept that many people overlook. They always think that it has to be some grandiose gesture, but it could be something simple. And I feel like because it's so simple that we've lost the community aspect of it.
Interesting. And you go back to Mother Teresa, and you talk about obviously Gandhi and Dr. King. We've had a history of giving back throughout the world, throughout world politics and world history. So somewhere we have to sort of continue that legacy. So I'd like to take some questions from my students and from the audience. Yeah, exactly.
So my question is how do you think that our communities and our community lives? You said all this week possible, but we're going to do more of that. How can we do that?
Well, I think it starts with the basic things. Like I said, it doesn't have to be some grandiose gesture, and it doesn't even have to involve money. It could be as simple as saying hi to someone or asking them how their day is, because too often we just ask people, how are you? And they say good, and that's the end. But like really asking about someone's day, because you could be the only person that talked to them that day or encourage them or let them know that they matter. And I feel like those basic gestures go a long way for a lot of people who feel alone.
Okay. And you mentioned, Gandhi, be the change you want to be. That's a very interesting quote that I shared with all my students. Be that change. Whatever we want to do in life is to be nice to someone, talk about human rights, talk about civil rights, but also be that change that you want to be. Any questions, more questions?
Oh.
Go ahead.
What is your support system, your foundation, you mentioned your family, what other people or influences you have in your life that really helped you, carry you along with your
I feel like I said in the speech, I feel like my parents and my brothers were huge influences growing up because they were always giving back, always finding ways to give back to the community, give back to people. And so that was a huge inspiration when I started my business, was I knew that I wanted to give back. And so then as I continued my mission through my cafe, then it was people latching onto that idea and customers began joining in and wanting to be a part of that. Because I feel like everybody wants to do good and everybody wants to be a part of good, but they don't know how to get started and they don't know what avenues to go through. So by us creating missions that they can follow, they're able to give back to the community in ways that they didn't think of.
Interesting. And even as a college student body, what should we do? You know, most of our students don't have money, I guess, to buy coffee. Most of the students are broke. But what should we do as a college setting, student-wise? What can we do?
I think it starts with just caring about people and seeing people as humans and reaching out to a person that may be quiet or may be secluded and just asking them how they're doing and what they're doing, because so many people don't want to admit that they're alone or that they're going through life without any support system. And so if you can reach out and be that for someone, that's why I created my mission, because I was that person in high school who was alone and felt secluded and alienated, and no one had reached out. And so it's important for you all to be that person for somebody else and reach out to that person, and you can really have an impact on them, because you don't know how much just asking about their day could help them. Maybe you were the only person to say something that day.
Interesting concept. Now, what's interesting about human rights and civil rights and giving back, you know, Dr. King, I shared a story whenever I speak with Dr. King on Black History Month. You know, when he was assassinated in Memphis, Tennessee, April 4th, 1968, it's an interesting story. The city of Memphis gave the garbage strike workers a 10-cent raise. I'm not too sure how many guys realized that or knew that fact. So here's a guy who just sacrificed his life for literally 10 cents. It's an awful price to pay for freedom, you know, and for liberty and for human rights in this country. So again, that question of giving back, I think it resonates with all of us. All of us have a story. Now, listen to Breanne talked about a story. We all have a story when it comes to giving back or knowing someone who needs help. And I share this for Black History Month because several years ago, I gave a speech at the State University of Plattsburgh, SUNY Plattsburgh, New York. I was one of the Black History Month. I was on a panel several years ago. And I talked a lot about human rights, and not necessarily giving back, but obviously civil rights and human rights, and Gandhi and Dr. King, and the struggles we continue to have today. I think Breanne talked a lot about the struggles and so forth. But at the end of the speech, there was an older African-American woman who came and wanted to talk to me. And she said, "Young man, I want to thank you for talking about civil rights, talking about human rights, and as Breanne does, talking about giving back to the community. We all can make a difference." And that was Dr. King's philosophy. And she said to me, "My father was a garbage strike worker with Dr. King in Memphis, Tennessee. He was a garbage strike worker. And I am now a federal judge in New York." Think about it for a second. Dreams Dr. King had, Breanne said, we all have a story. Find your story, tell your story, live your story. You know, come back to CCSU and share your story. That's what's good about, you know, Black History Month and civil rights and human rights and giving back. We all in some way, shape, and form can communicate a story and relate to someone. Okay? Questions? Go ahead, I'm sorry.
Breanne, I have to say I'm quite impressed with your message that you shared with us today, and I want to congratulate you for your achievement. One question I would like to ask all is there a special reason why you felt alone and lonely is something you probably like to tell? I don't know if I got that when you said it. Why, you know, because many of us would feel that sometimes we don't even know why.
I pinpointed to, so I grew up in a really wealthy city, and I think because I had hand-me-down clothes and I was overweight, and it was easier for the kids at the school to alienate me because I didn't fit into that mold. And so I think to climb out of that mold, like, it would have taken someone reaching out to me, and that's what was hard because I already knew that I didn't fit in with everybody. And so to figure out, how do I get out of this, or how do I not feel alone? And looking back, I wanted to be that person for myself. Like, I've become the person that I needed when I was back in high school, and I've created a mission that supports that idea that I would have needed when I was in high school. And I think that's why I feel so strongly about this mission of reaching out to people and giving back, because nobody's going to speak up for it. There's a big stigma and stereotype around people speaking up when they need help or speaking up when they feel alone or alienated. And I think because of that overlying stigma that they won't reach out. And so you have to be that person for them and create that bond with somebody.
Oh, good question. I think silence could be a very dangerous weapon. We all keep silence. We don't share our stories or don't confide with anyone. So that's always been a problem. I think Dr. King talked about that too, silence. At the end of the day, we remember not the words of our enemies, but the silence of our friends. Yeah. Questions? The high school students from, go ahead.
How do you encourage others to give to know whether you love or you How can you encourage others?
I think the biggest thing for a lot of my customers is when they get to see that direct interaction of where like their words are going or where they're like volunteering, like to see it and be there for somebody is really eye-opening, because until you experience that, and it can be more important for you giving to them than it is for them, because you're being inspired by the act of giving, you know? And so giving back to the people and encouraging them and being able to experience that, I think, is one of the greatest opportunities, because you're able to see what your words can do for someone. And it doesn't always have to be financial. Just your words of encouragement and being there for someone can make a difference in their whole life. You know, it can change the direction of their whole life just by you being there and encouraging them and speaking to them. And so I think it's just experiencing that, because once you experience it, you'll always remember that feeling, and you'll always remember how you felt in that instance when you made someone's day or you helped them or made them smile. You'll always remember that feeling.
Yeah. And those are some of our high school students from New Britain, the correct program. So welcome to the high school students and obviously the professors here with them. We have a wonderful campus. Hope to see you guys enroll here in the fall. Questions for our speaker? Anything from human rights, civil rights? And I want to pose an interesting question when I heard your story and I saw you on TV, some of the talk shows. You know, I've never worked in a battered shelter, so I don't know what it's like to be in a shelter like that, but how does that affect you? How does that change a person?
I think seeing the people in the battered women's shelter made it more relatable, because we all have the same internal struggles. We all want to feel appreciated. We all want to feel loved. We all want to feel like we're worth something to somebody. And so the internal struggles that all these women felt at the battered women's shelter made it relatable to me, because I've never lived in a battered women's shelter, but I've always felt the need to feel appreciated, the need to feel loved, the need to feel seen. And so it's just realizing that these people are humans too, and they all have the same internal struggles and accomplishments and the same feelings that we do. And so it makes it more relatable to work in a shelter like that and see that this does exist everywhere. It's a human feeling that we have.
Yeah, I know Professor Barrett Catherine is here with our social work program. Yeah, thank you for coming here. You know, I always found it kind of interesting even to talk about human rights, and I'm connecting, obviously, battered women. But I think Dr. King and Gandhi and even Mother Teresa said at the end of the day, we all want to be respected. You know, despite what color skin we are, who we are, where we come from, what nationality we are, students or faculty, or we all want to respect someone. I think that's something that we have kind of lost in today's society, just to respect. And just saying good morning to students or even saying hi to someone, somewhere down the line, I kind of always pose that question: where did we go wrong in society? What happened to our society when we forgot the art of giving back? So that's something interesting to kind of talk about. Questions? We have two more questions. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Thank you. How do you feel technology and social media have impacted our compassion for others?
Good question.
Oh, that's good. I feel like social media has become a double-edged sword. So I think that social media has a lot of power for good, but I also think it detracts us from human interaction and the one-on-one, like, personal connection you can have with somebody. So I think it can be good and bad, and that's the thing, because like with my community love mission, we have a Facebook page and we have an Instagram, and so I see the good that having social media can be, but I think it takes away from and can isolate some people who are normally not outgoing or want to stay secluded. I think it furthers their isolation, but I think also it can be used as a platform to reach out to those people and allow you to speak to those people and interact with them. But I think that you have to be careful not to lose the human interaction aspect of social media.
Yeah, humanism. Yeah. We have a chance for one more question. Go ahead, I'm sorry. I'll come to you next. Go ahead.
I guess I want to ask if you could
that's a hard one. I don't know, like knowing what I know now and knowing like how different of a person I've become, I feel like I would tell myself to get out of the bathroom and to go talk to some people, but I know that when I was in that mindset and feeling so isolated and alone, I don't know how I would have gotten out. I just had wished that someone would reach out to me and to tell myself back then that it's going to get better and you're going to learn a lot from this and it's going to build a lot of character, because I'm thankful for that experience and for going through that, because I feel like I can relate to more people now and not say I had this glamorous high school experience and I grew up the most popular kid, but like I've been able to accomplish a lot now based on like the experiences I had and feeling that isolated and that alone, and I'm thankful for the experience, but I wish that there was people that would have reached out to me, because that's my driving force now, is just like interaction and people interacting with people and seeing someone who may be sitting alone or seeing someone who's staying somewhere and just reaching out to them and making them know that they're not alone and that there's people that really do care about them and they do matter. And so I think that's the most important, is telling my high school self, like, you do matter, you are important, you're loved, you're appreciated. Because I always felt that at home. My parents were the best parents ever and always made me feel loved, but it was just that missing piece when I would go to high school, and yeah.
All the way down. I'm sorry. No.
My question is, sometimes people don't want to be helped. Sometimes they don't want to admit that they're knowledgeable. Because, you know, it's scary to tell people what their weaknesses are or your problems are. Because, you know, they feel vulnerable. How do you gain the confidence in them being able to tell you, either tell you what the problem is or accept your help?
I think if you don't dive right in and you just are asking them on a daily basis how they are, because it creates a pattern that they're used to. And so the more you're reaching out to them and just saying, how was your day? Or tell me something you did today. It starts out simple like that, because I feel like it's intimidating if you come at someone and say, are you okay? Do you need help? Do you feel alone? It just starts with saying, how was your day? Or tell me something you did today. And then it builds that comfort between you two. And eventually they may say, yeah, I'm struggling with this. But I feel like there's already that stigma of admitting you're alone or admitting that you're struggling. And so to start out with something so basic as how was your day, and not letting them respond with good like we all do when we're at the grocery store and the cashier says, how are you? And you're like, oh, good, how are you?
Yeah.
But really diving deep into, no, really, how are you? How are you feeling?
Yeah. And what sort of support base should we have? You know, if we, high school, we mentoring programs, peer programs, what do you suggest?
Well, I think for me, the most important was having someone that's relatable, because so many times we feel like if we're the ones to admit our struggles and we're the ones to admit that something's wrong or that we're alone, then we feel like people can't relate to us. And I feel like that's the most isolating thing, is believing that you're alone and that there's no one else that can relate to you. So I think being vulnerable about our struggles and about things that we're going through is the most important, because obviously in high school I wasn't opening up to every struggle that I had or every feeling that I had, but the more I got into my journey, the more I realized that being vulnerable and admitting that something was wrong was helping more people feel related to me and helping me realize that there are more relatable instances.
Well, let me just thank you, audience, for such a fantastic time. Before we go, I wanted to present a gift.
Thank you.
That's behalf of CCSU, my students, African American Studies class.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming here.
Thank you.
Thank you guys for coming, and those who want to meet the speaker, she's right here.